Hello, everybody. We've got a real great special conversation today with Diana Moran, the famed green goddess. We're going to have a very casual conversation about osteoporosis, about Diana's path through osteoporosis and the different aspects of her life. Diana, sorry. Thank you so much for joining us. It's such a pleasure to have you.
Thank you, Alison. It's good to be here.
Well, as we know, the prevalence of osteoporosis is really high. We've got 1 in every 2 women and 1 in every 5 men who will experience osteoporosis in their lifetimes. And these results have been passed out by the Royal Osteoporosis Society, of which I know you are a very important person.
I'm an ambassador.
Exactly. And a very important person with the Royal Osteoporosis Society as an ambassador. Diana, would you be kind enough just to fill us in on where did the green goddess come from?
Well, it came as a bit of an accident. Let's be quite truthful. I was a very sporty young girl, brothers and boy cousins, very long legs, and anything they could do, I could do just as well, I thought. And so I was always out and about running, climbing trees, wading around in water and whatever. And then I trained to be a personnel and welfare officer. But in the meantime, I always did a little bit of keeping fit for myself. And some people heard about this, and they were doing some PR work for Outline Slimming Bureau. I wonder if you've ever heard of them. It's a Vanderburg product. And they were going into Butlins all around the UK to try this out with people. And they said, wouldn't it be a good idea if we did a whole lot of stuff, dressing to suit your outline? Diana, you love dressing. Put on some fashion shows for us, which I did with lots of model girlfriends of mine. Cooking to suit your outline. I got another girlfriend to do the cooking, and then they said, let's do exercises to suit your outline. And that's when I started teaching the public. Joe Public, granddads, grandmas, little children, come along on the floor, let's move. There was nothing like it going on in England at the time. And I used music as well. To cut this story short, HTV, my television station back home in the West Country, got to hear about it. And I started to do some programs with them. And I said to them, now, what colour do you want me to wear? Shall I wear my red Butlins leotard? And gosh, they said, no, we can't have that. So they said, pop into London and see what's the latest. So I came back with a shiny golden yellow, I love yellow, leotard and tights. I wore that on air for the first programme, and I came off them. You can't wear that. You look like a large prancing canary. What else is there? And I love sophistication. So I went back, and there was this lovely coffee-coloured, shiny leotard and tight. I wore that for the second programme. When I came off, they said, you certainly can't wear that. You look naked on screen. So they said, what other colour is there? And I said, there's an awful green. They said, come on, let's try the green. Green was telegenic. I did 2 years on that programme, and in that time, the BBC were headhunting all around the country, and they saw me. And I got a call saying, would you be interested to be one of the first faces on BBC Breakfast that was just about to start? And so I went, and I was on Waterloo Station with the public for the first programme. And the national press went back to HTV and they said, here, who's this bird in green? And HTV knew me very well. And they said, and I'm very tall, and they said, oh, you mean Diana, our goddess, our green goddess. Bum, bum. And that was it. And the name stuck ever since. And I did 4 years with the BBC every weekday morning. And I was asked for with the army, the navy, children at school, people in old people's homes. It was extraordinary where I went. and did all these programs. It was wonderful.
Well, I think it's absolutely fantastic, and that's the first time I've heard the history of the goddess, and it's lovely, and I'm sure everybody will enjoy knowing where it came from, because
Totally
it
by accident. So thank you very much, HTV Public Relations.
and to this day you are still the green goddess.
I'm either the green goddess, or people who know me very well call me Gigi, and all my family call me Gigi. In my instance, it's Granny Goddess. All the
Oh,
grandchildren over
bless.
all the years. Come on, Gigi, you can do it, Gigi. Take us for a walk, Gigi.
Well, that is precious, Diana. Thank you so
Lovely.
much for sharing something so personal. That really is lovely. It's, and how did you move into osteoporosis?
Well, I'll tell you what happened. When I started on Breakfast Time, believe it or not, I wasn't a young person at all. People thought that perhaps I was, but I wasn't. I had two sons in their 20s, and I was 43 when I started in
Gracious.
1983, 40 years ago now. We just celebrated the 40th anniversary. Now, when I was doing that, I then hit the 50 mark. And as a sort of birthday thing, I said to like-aged friends, let's go ice skating down in Poole in Dorset, because I lived in that area. And to cut the story short, I slipped on the ice, and I'd previously had breast cancer, so I'd had very major surgery on my breasts, a bilateral mastectomy, actually. And so my natural reaction was to put out my hand to stop, to break the fall. Well, I didn't break the fall, I broke my wrist. And
Oh,
it was a Colles fracture, which is an osteoporotic fracture. So I was taken to the hospital in Dorset, and of course I had broken my wrist, and they were just starting up a charity called Osteoporosis Dorset, and they said, come on, Green Goddess, be our president. And that started my interest in osteoporosis. So that was all those years ago. I'm 84 now, so that was what,
wow.
40, blah, blah. My maths isn't very good. 54, 40
We're
something.
40 something years ago.
Yeah, about 40
I'm
years
like
ago.
you, I'm dyslexic, so we'll leave the maths.
And so, because I'm also a writer, author, I found out as much as I could do about bones at that stage, and wrote a book about bones, breaking bones, and all the rest of it. And from then onwards, I just became incredibly interested, and I realized that it wasn't, that you could actually help yourself, that if you moved, you took exercise, walking in particular, that particular movement, putting weight on your bones, on your hips, on your spine, and as long as you had sufficient calcium and vitamin D in your diet, you were going to help yourself to have stronger bones. So I've
that
got this interest.
it really is lovely how it has developed, and your interest in osteoporosis, because one thing I was really pleased to hear you say about the walking, because I hear so many people say walking is not exercise,
Jolly well
and
is.
it walking is exercise, and
Well, it's
it's so
natural
important.
exercise. Yes.
Like, get out there and walk, because not everybody can do the yoga or go to the gym or do the weightlifting. And that is something in osteoporosis that does concern me at times, when I see people suddenly start to wear these weighted vests and lifting heavy weights. I I believe that those are things that you have to build up to. It's not something that you just start doing. And as you say, if you can walk, get out there and walk. That was lovely. And that was the first thing that you promoted.
Absolutely. And I still do. I mean, nowadays I work with much older people. Obviously, I'm working
Yeah.
with care homes and retirement people a lot. And if they can walk, this is going to help them a great deal. And this is where my interest in the Marodyne LiV device comes in, because as you know, when you're on the piece of equipment, you're standing on it, it is vibrating, and it's doing a very similar thing to the effect that we're having when we're walking. It's agitating the bones very gently with this particular device, very gently, but it's the same thing. And as long as you've got a decent diet with calcium and vitamin D, the bones respond and say, oh, blimey, we should be a bit stronger. And this is how we can keep our bones a lot stronger. We can help ourselves.
We can help ourselves from the inside. Diane, do you still use your Marodyne LiV device?
Oh, yes, I most certainly do. If you could see me here at home, when I write a lot, as you probably see, I've got books behind me. I've written 16 books. When I'm writing, rather than sitting down, I'm at my tall desk, which if I were to turn my camera around, I could show you over here. And I stand there, and for 10 minutes a day, I just stand on the Marodyne device. It just fits very nicely on the floor where I'm standing. And I'm also an artist. And if I'm at my easel painting, the Marodyne device is just there as well. So I can do my 10 minutes a day so easily.
That's so lovely to hear that. That shows how little you move, because I think one of the fears, people often associate vibration therapy with the high paint shakers, body rattlers
Not
that
at
are
all.
around. And you definitely couldn't paint. You'd look like an abstract painter if you were trying to stand on one of those.
And I'm a very precise painter, so I have to be able to still paint with the vibration with this glorious device, the Marodyne device, is it's just so subtle, and it's just this very, very gentle. I liken it. I love cats. I liken it to my cat purring. It's that
That's
sort
a
of.
lovely description.
Yes, but it is. It's and then, but of course, the little movement goes all the way up this. It's precisely calibrated, and it goes up your legs, up your hips, up through your spine, and it's doing that similar good thing that the walking is doing, even though you're standing still. It's a
And you're
brilliant,
not getting wet in the rain.
or cold.
Or cold. Because the actual intensity is only, it's 0.4 G at 30 hertz, which means your muscles are moving 30 times a second.
Mhm.
So it really is quite intense, but so good for you. And I always find the anecdotal benefits to be so wonderful as well. It's not just our bones, there are other things as well.
And if I'm correct, wasn't it, in fact, originally researched and developed with NASA to protect the bone health of their astronauts?
You're quite correct, Diana. Yes, it was. Professor Rubin was asked to follow through the VIBE project with NASA, because their astronauts, these young, fit, healthy guys, would go up into zero gravity, and they would come back and, having lost bone density, break bones, and they had to find a way that they could combat the osteoporosis. So that started Professor Rubin and his team's journey into the Marodyne LiV device as it is today for all of us.
And I think it's been supported by over 35 years of research, isn't it? Hasn't it been? So,
Yeah,
it's
it is. It's
it's up
now
there.
way over 35 years. Professor Rubin's written 360 papers on the device and low intensity vibration therapy. He's been cited over 36,000 times, which
Wow.
his research. And
Yes.
some of the latest ones that really I find very, very touching is not just the effect on us as women, but on children. as he does a beautiful, there's an interview with him where he explains the work that they do with children as well, which is lovely as well with and one of the ones that they've now on cellular reaction of the cancer cells and Duchenne. So it's got vibration is everywhere. We can't avoid it. And the benefits are just so wonderful. I mean, have you found any other ones apart from just your bones?
Well, the thing is that as we get older, as I say, I'm now 84, if we're not careful, we lose our balance. And so having stronger bones, using the device, walking, do you know, one of the things that I do to help my balance, if I'm on the telephone, I'll stand on one leg. Or sometimes when I'm cooking, I stand on one leg to try and help me keep my balance. Because, of course, if we slip, if our balance isn't good as we get older,
Yes.
if our bones are a little more fragile, and of course they're going to be a little bit more fragile, it's going to result in fractures. And once we start fracturing bones as an older person, this is when quality of life starts getting quite difficult. So it's so important. This device is so good because it helps with balance as well.
Diana, I had neglected to actually mention the benefit on balance, because particularly with all the fragility fractures, and I believe the Royal Osteoporosis Society at the moment have a big campaign on avoiding, the fragility fractures. As you say, that is what starts to determine our quality of life. And when somebody gives you a diagnosis of osteoporosis, you possibly haven't been aware of it, which I hope now people will be more aware of it. But the fact that there is something you can do about it and that you can continue to live a normal life and be the person that you are. As I always say, be you, don't be your disease.
It's
And
quite interesting when you're talking to somebody who's only about 50 or so, and they hear that I'm in my 80s, they just think, oh, poor old dear. And they just assume that from about 50 onwards, life gets worse, slower and slower and all this. They are so wrong. I mean, we are a different a breed, this generation nowadays, with medical help and devices like this. And I can honestly say that my friends who are in their late 70s, their 80s, and a few of them into their 90s as well, they still have a quality of life. If they look after their health, life goes on, for goodness sake. You keep a healthy body, and with a healthy body usually goes a healthy mind as well.
yes,
And if you can stay with younger people around you so that you don't get bigoted, oh, it wasn't like that in my day. I hate all that sort of talk going on. But you've just said about how bones change as we get older. I've got two sons. My two sons are one is 62, one is 60. And I've got four grandchildren, and they're not children anymore. The three girls, they're in their 20s. They work for the NHS, each one of them in a different capacity, physios and doctors and what have you. And then there's a boy as well. Now, I always used to be this very tall grandma, and they would come and see Gigi, and then they'd hold Gigi's hand and they'd pull me somewhere. Now, when they come, they tower, all of them, above me. I was 5'10.5". Now, I went to have my bones checked about 6 years ago now, and they weighed and measured me, before the DEXA scan and the likes of, and they said 5'8". I said, no, I'm 5'10.5". So they did it again, and they said, I'm sorry, dear, you're not. You're 5'8". And so, although I'm somebody who's always done exercise, my bones, they were able to tell me osteopenia, which is the first stage of osteoporosis, and hopefully I'll keep it at this stage only. But it happens to everybody. I mean,
yes, it does.
half of the women over 50 and 1 in 5 men over 50 will possibly have the beginnings of osteoporosis. And so we must be aware of it and do all that we can to keep our bones as strong as we can for as long as we can.
It's so lovely to hear you speaking about these things, Diana, because people don't realize that we lay down bones in our active years. You know, children now sitting on their iPads, everybody on the phones, all the gaming, even at work, when you're sitting at work for 8 hours a day, you're not moving. And if you're not moving, you're not laying down that bone. And we don't lay down bone at the same rate our entire life. As you said, our bones start to deteriorate. So you've got until you're about 30, 35 to lay down those bone stocks that you need. And then as women, we get those wonderful hormonal changes that prepare us for the rest of our lives. But that reduction in our estrogen, our progesterone, and the testosterone, because yes, we know women do have testosterone as well, that when those deplete, we're laying down less bone than is being naturally taken away. And as you say, by being active, by walking, and by doing things, we can. People believe that you can't reverse it. You can slow it, and yes, you can definitely reverse it with the likes of the Marodyne LiV device. But the more active we are, the better it is. I mean, we speak about the Marodyne LiV device, and I would love to see one in every workplace. Make people get up from their desk for 10 minutes. We shouldn't sit at our computers for our eyes all day. You know, get up for 10 minutes, stand on the device, walk around. I'd probably be in big trouble with this for some companies. Chat at the water machine or the coffee machine. You know, give yourself that break. And it's so enlightening to hear you speak of the things that people can do.
And talking of cups of coffee, here I am with my cup of coffee, and I can stand on that device and drink my cup of coffee because it doesn't slop all over the place. As we've talked about before, it's just this lovely purring vibration. And you can do everything else. And you're so right. We've got to break away from our computers every half an hour or so. Just get up and walk about a bit. Maybe stand on the device for 10 minutes. Maybe have your cup of coffee at the same time. It's also easy to do when you're conscious of being able to help yourself. It really worries me that the younger generation don't get out and run around like we started this interview. I told you about my childhood. And obviously I was laying strong bones down at that stage. And these youngsters today don't do it. Ugh, bit worrying.
But Diana, thank you very much. Would you like to mention any of the other charities that you work with?
Well, of course.
It's part of your life.
It certainly is. I mean, the one that I love working with is now called the Royal Osteoporosis Society. We used to be the National Osteoporosis Society, and then we had a rather important person join us as our president, i.e. Camilla, soon to be Queen. And so we've gone up in the world a little bit, but they do some wonderful work. They really do. And they're really heavy into research at the moment, worldwide research. And then I also work close to my heart here at where I live, which is down in Surrey. There are two children, well, there's one child's charity called White Lodge, and they help with very young children, babies and young children with cerebral palsy and serious mobility problems. And they've now just opened their doors to older people who've had strokes or other, multiple sclerosis or something like that. And so they are able to use the physio and, of course, the pools as well. And then the other one that I work with is the Orpheus, and that's run by Sir Richard Stilgoe, and that's older people who've got severe disabilities, let's call it that for the time being. And these would be people of about 18, 19, 20, and they live in the Orpheus, which is a converted farmhouse and outbuildings that Richard has done over many, many years now, and through music, because of course he's a musician, pianist, composer, everything. Through music, he gives them this wonderful quality to life. And do you know, many of those young people go on to perform professionally. Oh, it's just wonderful. So those are the ones that are very near to my heart, very, very dear to my heart. Yes.
Well, that's lovely. Possibly we can work together because as you possibly, I know you are aware, but other people may not be aware of the benefits of the Marodyne LiV device, the low intensity vibration for people with mobility issues, stroke rehabilitation, your cerebral palsy children. So that would be an entirely separate discussion, how we could probably work together in the future.
That would be wonderful if we could.
Thank you, Diana. Just so that we can say it out there, if people would like to contact us, our details are, I'll just run through them quickly for you, Diana, if you like. We've got the website, which is mybones.health. There is a private Facebook group as well, which has lovely conversations for people asking questions. And the members, we've just hit over 1,000 members in
brilliant.
12 months. It's a very open site. We allow all sorts of discussions. We allow people to answer each other's questions. We try to intervene as little as possible so that people feel free to say what they like. And also, if you would like to speak with us, we've got the 2 telephone numbers. One is our landline in Bristol, which is 0117 253 0400. And then, of course, we have the mobile number, which you can join if you like and chat to me on WhatsApp, which is 073 480 400. That brings the official side of it to a close. But Diana,
But I'm absolutely intrigued because you've just said something there that I didn't know about. So that was a telephone number in Bristol. Now, all that I've been telling you about of my childhood, I was born in Somerset. I went to my grammar school in Bristol, and Bristol is really my home, and most of my family are there.
yes, oh, that's even.
Realize.
Neither did I. That's absolutely wonderful. Our head office is in Bristol. So, and if people would like to come and see us as well, Diana, they can do that. They can phone us, they can pop in. And it's always best to make an appointment, but they can come in and trial the machine in Bristol if they're around. So, but that's it. That's even wonderful. So we even have a closer relationship than I realized.
I shall come knocking on your door when I'm down in Bristol.
Diana, that would be an absolute pleasure. It really would. That would make so many people's lives very, very happy. But Diana, thank you so much for your time and for sharing so many personal aspects. It really is. It was to see Diana, and I think you've been really gracious in showing us that side. Thank you very, very much.
To you, Alison, and you keep on keeping fit.
I'll do my best. Diana, take care. Thank you so much.